did you first come up with Bart's voice?
I was called in to do Lisa. I'm reading the character description. She's 8-year-old middle child. Kind of didn't get my mojo moving. But next to it was a description of Bart. 10 years old, school-hating underachiever and proud of it. And I said, hey, I'm here to read for Lisa, but I read the part of Bart. I kind of like the idea of Bart better. He's like, okay. So with Bart, it was like,
Rod, Todd, this is God. Go to the kitchen and bring forth the cookies. But those are our parents' cookies. Do you want a happy God or a vengeful God? Happy God, happy God.
boom, bam. He was like, whoa, that's him. You're hired. Right there on the spot. I can't believe how many people responded to that Ask Me Anything question that just was like viral to the max.
Seriously.
You know, what was it? How many?
4.5 million.
Okay.
I think it was this is going to be fact checked, okay? Because I'm maybe blowing it up a little bit, but it was the most successful Reddit post of the Simpsons Reddit in history.
That's amazing.
So it was
That's
like
amazing.
3,000 comments. The moderators literally had to shut off commenting because there's too many questions, and they wanted to be respectful of Miss Cartwright's time. So
Well, without naming any names, somebody who I really respect on the show made a comment about it, and he was just
names. What? Well, this is Simpsons Declassified. You're supposed to name names.
Matt Groening was so impressed.
Oh my God.
He said, good luck trying to answer all that. Nancy answered, look what you've done. You've created wow. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
So here we are, answering the unanswered. One of their big questions was, what moment made you realize I really can do voices?
You know, I think it was when I was on the speech team.
Yeah.
And I did so well. My brothers were bringing home Little League trophies, and I was bringing home first place in humorous interpretation. I'm like, wow, other people think I'm funny, so this is cool.
But so then humorous interpretation was what exactly? Like reading stories or?
Yeah, in my case, it was some children's stories, but it was also dramatic duo and humorous duo. I wrote an after-dinner speech on being cute.
Oh my gosh.
And did really, really well. I did a speech. I got 5th in the nation writing a speech on animation. And there was no internet. There was no Google, nothing like that. We had one library, and there was one article in one magazine.
No
I
way.
can't honestly say that I fully understood how to do this, but I had what are called visual aids, and what I did was I made it's animated cells that you use in animation where you do the artwork.
Like these ones? These
Yeah.
kinds of cells?
Yes, these are
Okay.
cells, and they do it on paper first, and then it's inked on one side, and then flipped over and painted in reverse on the other side so that the paint doesn't smear. And I dropped one on top of the other, and there was a holding cell, which means it just stays in place. That was Pinocchio's face. It was like
No way.
profile. It was his face, and then I drop out a nose, and then a longer nose, and then a longer nose. So it gave the illusion that the nose was growing, and the audience was like, whoa, and they laughed, and they loved it, and for whatever reason, I did really well with that.
I can't believe it. I didn't know that you did that even. How old were you at that point?
I was about 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, a fun way to get your education paid for and travel around to the best motels in Ohio. I met one guy, Jack Thomas, who he did stand-up, and he was a debater also. He did both, and he was training to be a lawyer. Most guys that are in debate train to be a lawyer. But Jack Thomas, 2 years after I had moved out and started working in the industry, he said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a stand-up comedian. I want to do this. He moved out here. He ended up doing warm-ups for audiences. And
so
within
cool.
2 years, he was casting. He was doing Fairly Odd Parents, and he did The Replacements.
Okay.
And The Replacements, by then, I was already well into The Simpsons. I'm like, this was one of the first times that I ever felt like, gosh, I don't know that I have any more voices in me.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe I'm depleted. I don't know how to do anymore. So what I did was, I read the character description of Todd Daring, and I'm like, I put together, it was Ralph Wiggum and Nelson Muntz.
No way.
Yeah, and I combined the two.
So Ralph Wiggum sounds like this,
And Nelson Muntz is like this.
and Todd Daring is kind of like this. So you can it's sort of in the middle.
Oh my God. It's a perfect little medley of
Yeah.
the two boys. But then you could do that probably with any of your characters. You mix Ralph with Bart,
Yeah.
and that'll be a new voice.
Or like Bart trying to do Ralph.
Or, like you get into the character's mind trying to
What
do
would that
another
be?
voice.
You know, if this is Bart Simpson and Bart's trying to do Ralph, Bart would probably go, I don't know if he can I do it? Would it be, and then you get the squeaky teen. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a placement. It's a voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then you get somebody like Tress MacNeille, who's genius, and she's just all over the place in terms of she does Skinner's mother, and then she does Dolph, and she does like a secretary. She's kind of can do all these characters, and Tara Strong is a bit like that too. It's like
Absolutely.
these actors that we have on the show.
Yeah.
It's such a privilege because I get to find out about them as a fan.
Yeah.
You know, yes, co-hosting, but I'm kind of blown away by the amount of talent that's out there.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I agree. And the fans also wanted to know, like, do Bart's mannerisms come from your childhood?
So wait, now when you say mannerisms, I'm getting a little bit like, okay, maybe a little bit. Do you mean like
a little guilty as charged?
Oh,
Yes, guilty as charged.
yes, I did. First, I wasn't a class clown. I was not a class clown, although I did drive our geography teacher kind of crazy by doing that dripping. Because he kept looking around trying to figure where that came. And he's like,
He's like, where is
and the
it
class is
leaking
just
from?
like chortling and snorkeling or whatever. Never did tell him, Mr. Dworkin. Sorry, Mr. Dworkin, if you're watching. But
Yeah.
oh, I got busted. Okay,
Yeah.
dare I say this? I did something really
Simpsons
stupid.
declassified.
This is very declassified. I wrote something that I never should have written on a bathroom stall. And it was nasty. It was
Oh.
bad. And
Okay.
I was jealous of somebody and oh gosh.
Was
and
it
then,
a drawing or just a
no,
statement?
it was a phrase, and it was really bad. And then I just went about it was in brown magic marker. I never thought anything of it. I walked out of the bathroom, and that was it. I, degraded school property, and I just took no responsibility for whatever, and I just went about my day. And last period of the day, over the loudspeaker,
Nancy Cartwright, please report to the principal's office.
Wait,
I'm
did
like-
you sign it? Were you like, blah, blah, Nancy Cart? Okay.
I did.
How did they know? How did they call you into the principal's office?
Somebody saw me come out of the bathroom. I was turned in by, I have no clue. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But this is the irony of it. So I go into the principal's office and he says, have a seat. I go, okay. I have no idea. He says, I understand you're quite an artist. And I went,
Wait, that's what he says? That's his opening statement?
yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you.
Are you kidding me?
And I never had an art class or anything. I'm just like, oh, thank you. He says, and I understand you're particularly good with a brown magic marker. And I went,
Oh my God, this is getting crazier and crazier.
oh, yeah, I was busted. Man, I was so busted. I'm like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Well, your mom's on her way, Nancy. You're being suspended. I was like, oh, my God.
Oh darn! You just gave in. You
Oh,
didn't go. That wasn't
no.
me. I didn't do it. No one saw me do
no.
it.
I was so guilty, and it felt horrible. And I went home for the rest of the day and had to stay home the next day.
Okay, you have to. You've been teasing this whole story. What? Did
No,
you
I
write?
am. No, I'm not saying it.
Can
I'm
we
not-
play Hangman? I have to guess. I have to guess
Let's
what
have
it
the
was.
fans guess what I wrote. Oh my God! it
Okay,
just-
comment what you think Nancy wrote on her bathroom stall.
No, I can't. I can't.
Okay.
It's bad. And it was, the neighbor was part of the Board of Education. And the next day, like my dad, you remember, well, you don't, maybe you do, but at one time, white rocks were a very popular thing. They would you'd weed the garden, get it all the
Oh,
way
sure.
down to dirt, and then you'd plant beautiful plants, and then you'd take plastic down so the weeds wouldn't grow up.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But then you'd cover the plastic with white
Stones.
granite.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
White painted rocks. So I had to do that. I was in charge of redoing the entire garden. That was my punishment.
Oh wow.
But the point is that the neighbor saw me doing it, and she's
Uh-huh.
like, "What are you doing home? Why are you home from school today? Isn't it a school?" I had to go
God.
to the dentist.
Stop.
My yeah, that's what I'm humiliated.
Oh my God. Were you wearing one of those things around your head? That's so funny that you chose to lie to your neighbor about it versus the principal.
Can we change the subject? Could you ask me the next question? This is like bringing up bad memories.
Oh my God, it's just so Bart Simpson of you.
Very. It was very Bart Simpson-esque.
And what's the hardest scene you've ever had to record?
Oh gosh, there was a scene, I think it was called The 10 Commandments, and I had 4 of my characters in one scene. And this was early on, and this was before we even had a sound. We were doing the table reads in a trailer. It was in a trailer, man. It was like, wow. Okay.
Hopefully there was air conditioning.
Yeah. There was AC. So I remember doing it, and I remember being so nervous and I would use different colored magic markers to highlight each character.
Okay.
You know, fluorescent yellow was Bart, and then there was orange and green and blue. And I'm like, just to separate out so I didn't have to read the name. And I wanted, because the dialogue went like that.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and forth amongst these characters. And when I finished it, I remember Julie. And she was like, giving me a rattle, and then everybody was like, oh my gosh. It was kind of a touching moment.
Oh my gosh.
Personally, you know, that was cool.
Yeah. And that was 4 different characters, like Ralph.
Yeah, I think so. It was Radio Bart, and he was down a well, and he was pretending like he was talking into a Mr. Microphone, and the speaker was next door through the radio of Rod and Todd Flanders, the Christian study buddy neighbors.
Yeah.
And Bart's going,
Rod, Todd, this is God. What are you doing on our radio? What do you mean, what am I doing on the radio? I created the universe, stupid kid. Oh, sorry. I've got a job for thee. Walk through the wall. Yes, sir. Ow. Go to the kitchen and bring forth the cookies. But those are our parents' cookies. Do you want a happy God or a vengeful God? Happy God.
See?
You know,
it's amazing.
it's exhausting. It's upper respiratory workout. It's anaerobic. It's good. It's good.
It's good for your heart. It's good for your heart health.
Yeah.
How did you first come up with Bart's voice?
That happened when I was at the radio station at Wing Radio, because my boss really wanted to support me in my dreams. Oh. And so they came up with a gimmick. It's a PR gimmick for the station where I was in the studio with the drive time DJ. Okay. He's playing music most of the time, but come 5 o'clock, it's the news and the weather. Oh. And so I was in there, and a guy named Bob Breck was the weatherman at WHIO. And what they did was they suggested, why don't you become like the lifeguard of this imaginary swimming pool? And we'll pretend that we don't really work here at Wing Radio. We mostly sit around and get work on our tans. And everybody's drinking martinis, and every now and then an olive might get stuck in the drain or something like that.
Oh, but I came up with the sound of this, and it's, all right, we're going to go to Bob Breck. We're going to talk about the weather. Bob, what's it look like? I'm sitting out in the sun right now, but clue me in. How hot is it exactly?
And just came up with this sound, and it was a very easy placement for my voice.
Wow. And then did it evolve? Before you got to the audition, you know, you had this idea for what Bart's voice was going to sound like. So how did it go from the lifeguard to Bart?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, because I was called in to do Lisa.
Right.
And I'm reading the character description. She's 8-year-old middle child. And at that time, she wasn't the Lisa that she grew into doing the half hour. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading that, and it was okay. It kind of didn't get my mojo moving. But next to it was the description of Bart, and I'm reading it. 10 years old, school-hating underachiever and proud of it. And that description alone, just like, whoa, my heart's going pity-pat. I'm thinking, that sounds way more fun. Mm-hmm. So I was called in, and Matt Groening was sitting there, and he invited me in. I shook his hand, and I said, hey, you know, I'm here to read for Lisa, but I read the part of Bart. I kind of like the idea of Bart better. Do you mind? I'd like to do Bart. He's like, okay, sure, whatever. He was so easy, affable, like completely affable.
And at this point, you already had Bart's voice in your head? Like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it was one decision. And, you know, people ask me, how do you do that when you go to auditions? It used to be, and not so, I don't know how it is today, but it's like, I would always give 3-4 different takes. Yeah. You know, you can change the pitch, you can change the age, you can slow it down, you can speed it up, you can give it an accent, you can create all kinds of characters with your sound. but I always like to give them options, if only to show that I am directable.
Yes.
I'm not stuck on one thing. So with Bart, it was like blah, 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 boom, bam. He was like, whoa, that's him. You're hired. And right there on the spot.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Like, cause like he really brought the picture of him or the description of him. I don't know if you even had a picture or drawing of him.
Yeah,
at that point.
there was a drawing. Yeah.
But then that kind of inspired you to go,
Yeah.
this is comfortable, but now this is like a new thing, right?
Sophie, it was the smartest thing that I could have done. Just instinctually, it was just a thought that I had, and I'm not by any means taking any credit saying I knew the show was going to be a huge hit, and I would be sitting here 37 years later talking about it. It's like no, there was some sort of a thought that this is a great voice to be one of the members of the family, and not knowing that there was going to be Nelson, Todd,
Right.
Kearney, Database, Ralph. It's like I had no clue.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going behind the yellow curtain here.
Oh, good.
One of the questions that the fans were really obsessed with was, how do the couch gags work and the chalkboard gags work? And do you have to do anything to influence them or to be a part of them?
No, I'm surprised. Like, it was within the first season, I believe, that it said on the chalkboard, I am not a 32-year-old woman.
Oh my gosh.
I was
so
like, oh my
You
God.
have no idea until you watch them.
Yeah. And then 30 years later, I am not a grandmother.
Oh, that's really sweet.
It's very
They kind of
sweet.
go, oh, Nancy became a grandmother. Let's write that into the... That's
They're
so
funny.
cool.
They are so funny.
They're
These
so
guys
funny.
they're genius. All of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that's really cool. You kind of just get to enjoy it when it comes out.
Yeah,
and you
for
get to
real.
see it as a fan.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Do you have a favorite running gag of the show? Like something that they do often?
Here's an interesting thing about the opening number. They'll be playing
Yeah.
the theme music, and the car's driving, the Marge in the grocery store, and ding, and they buy Maggie, and it's moving on. And then they run into the house, and then it's the couch gag.
Right.
But one of my favorite ones, I'm not sure what season it was, but it was the one where they sit down, dun 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 dun, and then a curtain opens in the back, dun 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 dun, and it's like a whole circus, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I thought it was because they ran out of ideas for the couch gag, but that's not it. What it is...
Oh, what is it?
Well, this is Simpsons Declassified.
Yeah.
If the show came up a little bit short, say it came up about 15, 20 seconds too short, they would extend the couch gag so that there would be no more... They wouldn't stick a commercial or an act break, that we would have to do another act, a little tag at the end. To avoid that, they would just make the couch gag longer.
Oh my God, that's so smart.
Yeah.
Because then it's the show, and it's almost like keeping the hook in for the show. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You don't want to, okay, it's over. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
Keep their attention, and then we're into the show.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is a very declassified information.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Michael Jackson, because
Oh,
the
yeah,
fans had so many questions about your experience working with him.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I had two experiences with him. One was with the show itself, when he played a 300-pound yellow insane patient,
Right.
and who thought he was Michael Jackson, and that was quite an experience, because we met at his manager's house, Sandy Gallen, and we all showed up and were waiting, and Michael hadn't come down yet, and he was going to be doing the voice, but he was not allowed. I don't know why. It was some contractual thing with the record company, but he was not allowed to sing. In this particular episode, Bart and Michael end up singing Happy Birthday to Lisa, and it is the sweetest song. And Kip Lennon, who was on, we sang this together.
Happy birthday, Lisa. Lisa, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Lisa. Lisa, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Lisa.
It was so sweet, but even more memorable to me was when he produced Do the Bartman. And so they didn't do it at the Fox lot. They did it at a private studio. And I showed up, and I knew that he was a big Bart Simpson fan. And this was when gosh, when was it? They came out. Toys R Us had these Bart Simpson talking dolls, and it was a prototype because they were going to find out if they were going to do a Marge Simpson doll, a Homer doll, a Lisa
so Bart
doll.
was first?
Bart went first, and I bought I filled up 2 shopping carts. And I bought all of them. They were
my
$20 each, and I spent a couple $100 and bought all these. And
Really quick, did you do the voice
I
of
did.
that little guy?
I did, but the problem was, and why it didn't work, and Bart was the only one, the string was too short, so it sounded like Bart on helium.
Don't have a cow, man. Eat my shorts. No way, man.
It just like,
It was like a chipmunk version.
yeah, it was a bad product. And
Aw.
it doesn't matter because I bought them all anyway, but it's like, yeah, that was kind of a cool
Like, sales
thing.
are up. Why? Nancy Cartwright. Anyways, okay, so then he had one of those dolls.
Yeah, and I brought him one, and I didn't wrap it up. I just had it
Oh.
behind my back.
Oh,
I
you
said, "Here,
brought
Michael,
him
this is for
one.
you." He's like, "Oh,
I love Bart Simpson. I love him.
so we go.
Oh,
he
that's
just
really sweet.
He loved it. He just loved it. We go into the studio. I'd say he's directing me. They call it producing, but he was directing me,
Okay.
and but minor directing. He said, "Why don't we just take it from the top, Nancy?"
But hold on a second. Are you completely nervous because you're being directed by him? Or what was your experience like? You were obviously really kind. You brought him something.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty chipper, but like
Yeah.
inside, are you like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. But he was in another room. He was in a soundproof room. I
Yeah.
could see him through the glass. And just listening to him, he goes, "That was really good, Nancy. Let's do it again. I don't really know what else to tell you. Just keep having fun. This is really fun." And so we would just do it again. And I would just find little nuances, you know, and I would throw in if you listen to it, you hear these little ad libs that I threw in. "Yay, Michael. Way to go, Michael. I love you, Michael." And just threw in these
Oh,
little sound bites, you know.
Yeah.
And I think he liked it. And they kept it. John Boylan, I think he might have been the producer. Jim Brooks was there.
Okay.
I didn't feel, the only pressure I was feeling was what I was putting on myself.
Sure.
The space was really nice.
Oh, that's
and he
nice.
was very kind, just very, and touched, you know, by the whole
Wow.
thing.
I mean, but you had to learn how to rap.
Yeah.
And how much preparation
Oh,
did you have?
That was not easy because there was a certain rhythm that I had to hit that I'm not a rapper. And it did take a little bit of practice on my part
Yeah.
to get it so that I was more prepared when I went into the studio.
How long did you work on it?
I had it for a couple of weeks that I was working
Okay.
on it. I mean, I'm not working on it 8 hours a day.
Sure.
But just work on it a little bit every now and then. And
Like
kinda-
learn one verse and then
Yeah.
the next one.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was ingrained in me. And I mean, I know that song like the back of my hand. And
And then you got to perform it at the
I
Hollywood
did-
Bowl.
yeah, decades later. And that was amazing.
And that it all came
like
back
full
to you.
circle. Yeah, I mean, they actually got me a choreographer because I was in the middle of the stage and I had to go all the way around up the apron to the center of the apron singing. So the breath control, and I'm realizing,
yeah.
wow, what it's like to be a bit of a rock star and be able to sing and move at the same time. And it's not easy.
Wow.
They are athletes. You
Yeah.
know, these artists that are singer dancers and musicals. It's like, wow, this is something that is brand new to me, but I ended up gaining a whole new respect
Yeah.
for other artists and who they are and what's expected of them,
Right.
you know?
Right. Absolutely.
But at the same time, if that's who they are and that's what they're doing, they're trained like that from usually a very young age. So I was having to build up my lung capacity, and I had this choreographer, and she was great. She helped to she simplified it a lot. My motions were kind of held down a bit, but man, yeah, I was having fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was Bartmania like in your perspective? Because there was definitely
Yeah.
a point in the show where it just started
Yeah.
blowing up.
I'm assuming you're talking about there were T-shirts being made, and it's being talked in newspapers, the cover Parade magazine, and
Yeah.
we
There
eventually
was T-shirt bands.
Oh yeah,
I believe.
yeah, that's right. You know, believe it or not, it was kind of like, oh, I kind of took it a little bit in stride because I don't look like Bart. I don't really, it's just, I'm his voice, but he's the star, not
Right,
me.
right.
It's like the kid with the 9 spikes on his head. Okay, that's Bart, that's him. I do remember a time getting on an elevator and the door was just about to shut and a kid came up to get on and it was packed. He couldn't get on, but I saw he had a Bart Simpson t-shirt on, Eat My Shorts. I went, cool t-shirt, man. And the kid was like, oh, and the door shut. It was that, oh man, that was, for me, that was a moment when I went, wow, we just might have something here.
That's incredible. And from your perspective, how into the show is this? How many years into
This
the
was
show
probably a couple years, just like season 2.
couple seasons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And could you stay anonymous back then?
You know, they were actually wanting us not to say anything, but it was, I was very pregnant at the time. Jack was born in September of 91. So this was early in 91. We'd only been on the air for like a year.
Yeah.
And they were not, at that time, producers were saying, yeah, we're not going to be doing any, and there weren't any offers coming my way. I don't think anybody's way about doing interviews.
Yeah.
So it was fine by me. I was very, very much into being a mom and it was fine.
Yeah.
But when my water broke, I mean, that was a different story, you know.
My water broke. I'm out of here, man. Boom. And then
Did you say that?
I did.
You did?
I did. It was in a boutique in Beverly Hills. It was like, oh my God,
my water broke. I'm out of here.
and she's like, wait, that sounds familiar.
You're like,
Nancy
I'm-
Cartwright, I'm the voice of Bart. She goes, are you pregnant? I mean, I was sticking out to Nebraska. It's like, dang, am I pregnant? Yes, I'm having contractions right now. In fact,
my water broke. I got to get out of here, man.
she's like, oh, that was an incident that, like, wow.
That's so funny. So fans really want to know, did you always want to work in animation?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
It was something that evolved. It just kind of happened. As a kid, I loved to make people laugh. I used to tell jokes. We would get, my mom and dad had a subscription to Reader's Digest magazine. And this was in the this was in the 60s. This was in the 60s. Laugh-In. I used to dress up like Gladys Ormsby from Laugh-In. And we used to take the jokes from Reader's Digest and do these little sketches for my aunts and uncles. And I would do Ruth Buzzy. And it's just like, they would laugh. And my dad had the 8mm camera, filming us, which I don't think had sound, so go figure that out. But I found out that I could make my family laugh, so I would also do sound effects. I got into theater in the summertime. I just started doing things that I liked.
Yeah.
And I learned how to, like, drip. It really
Nancy
worked.
has drip, y'all.
I got a bruise. It was one summer that I did that. That was when I was about 12 or 13. I got a little bruise underneath here, but just started finding things that made people laugh. And then I got into plays, junior class play, senior class play in high school. And they had a speech team. And it was competitive speaking where there was the debate team, which I was not interested in that. But they did individual events. So I did things like humorous interpretation. And I did some children's stories and just became all these characters. James Thurber told he wrote a story called Many Moons. And there were 7 characters in it. And I played all 7 of them. They were all men except for one princess.
No way.
And I find that so ironic.
That's
because
super ironic.
I know, right?
Yeah. So wait, you were creating character voices for these different performances. You'd come up with voices
Yep,
for
and I
these
just
guys.
told this story over and over again and would get first place trophy, first place ribbons, occasionally a second place, but did really, really well. Enough that when I competed at the national districts and I won it 2 years in a row, I got a scholarship to go to Ohio University.
Wow.
And compete on the speech. This paid for my education.
Oh my gosh, your voice this whole
Yeah,
time
yeah.
has just been, you've been forging this path with your voice.
Right. And then I got one comment from one judge that said, "You've got a unique voice. You should do cartoons for a living." And I was like, wow, you can make a living doing this? Oh. So my life just opened up. And then in the
How
summer.
old were you then? When
I was
she
like
said
in high
that?
school. So I was like 15.
Okay.
15. In the summer, I worked at WING, winging it in Dayton, home of the Wright brothers. But I ended up filling in for people that went on vacation and became a character. And my boss knew that I wanted to do this. And somebody from Warner Brothers Music was promoting music to the production manager of the station. Yeah. But he knew that I wanted to do these voices, and I shook her hand, and she seemed interested, but she says, I know nothing about animation. I'm into music, but put a tape together of things that you do, and maybe I can help you out. And she did, and she followed through, and that was the beginning of a long-distance relationship with voice pioneer Dawes Butler.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a cool thing to notice, that the voice was kind of like creating voices while you were doing these characters, and then one thing kept leading to another.
And it was just fun. So I just did what was fun for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Okay, I have a next fan question.
Okay.
All right. What was your first voice acting job?
That was Gloria on Richie Rich. That's at Hanna-Barbera. I was called in, and I didn't even have a car. I was living at Dykstra Hall at UCLA, and I'd been studying every Sunday with Dawes Butler, catching the bus and taking it into Beverly Hills. And I'd supposed to be a 1-hour lesson, but I was there all afternoon. And he was great. He and his wife would take me out to dinner on the way back home. Just so sweet to me. So just like incredibly generous. After a bit of that, he eventually took me in, and I shook hands with some of these directors. And one of them actually was Gordon Hunt. He's the one that really started me off, very dedicated. And Jenny McSwain was a casting director, and then Andrea Romano, and they really supported me and kept calling me back. And eventually this opportunity came up for Richie Rich, and I did Gloria, and she's kind of like a bit of a petulant Bart Simpson, because she's sort of like,
Oh, Richie, we're doomed. And it's sort of like Bart on, because this is Bart Simpson, but Gloria was like a little bit higher, and she was whiny. She was really whiny.
God, it does sound a little bit like I can kind of see it if Bart were a teenage girl or something. So, what's the hardest character for you to voice, to keep consistent with the voice?
The hardest one to do vocally is Nelson, for sure. It's a throat ripper. You know, to consistently do an entire thing and then to sing, Papa, can you hear me? But I love him.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, the character arc for Nelson is really beautiful, because he's not just one note. And Bart isn't either, by the way, but we can get on that in a minute. Yeah. But Nelson, I love that there's a tender spot in his heart, and especially his crush that he has on Marge, the incredibly hot Mrs. Simpson. He started to... He ended up, they kind of adopted him for a little bit, and he started working for Marge, and he just got a little kind of a crush on her, which is really sweet. Crush. And also Kearney, when Kearney was introduced, he was another thug, and it's like, gosh, and physically he's got a lot of,
he's robust,
a lot of meat on him, you know. So it's like, how can I sound different? I don't want to sound like Nelson. So I just took Nelson and then I softened him up a little bit. But I didn't, it's like, it was a good decision to make, but as time evolved, occasionally I would be doing Nelson instead of Kearney, and would realize that I made that mistake and said, don't use any of those first 3 takes, they're wrong, use this. And sometimes, you know, you got to have a really good ear to really hear it. But I'd like to think the fans, you guys, you're not very critical of me, and I appreciate that. You keep throwing me bones all the time. So thanks.
So what's the weirdest thing a fan has ever asked you to sign?
We were in Edinburgh, and we had done a live performance. It was a staged reading. It was so amazing. And there was a guy backstage. Somehow he paid extra money to be able to meet us. This guy was super buff. He takes his shirt, pulls his t-shirt off, and turns around, and on the back of him was Krusty the Clown.
Tattoo?
Yeah, it was incredible. And then he wanted me to sign it. I think he was getting everybody to sign it. You know, it wasn't just Bart
Yeah.
or Nancy. I think he wanted mine, he wanted Dan's.
Have you ever signed shorts?
That's a very good question. I don't think I've ever signed anybody's shorts. I'm not Tom Jones. It's
They're throwing shorts at
throwing
the
shorts
stage.
at me saying, autograph my shorts. No, I don't think I've ever signed shorts. That'll be a first.
That'll be, well,
Yeah.
you probably will get a flood of shorts then. They want to be the first.
Yeah, yeah.
And how much improv actually happens with the show and with episodes?
You know, this is my viewpoint, is that I give it how it's written. You know, do a couple takes exactly how it's written. And if I'm inspired, I will add a line or a word or an expression or a sigh or something that I am inspired. But again, I don't have any say. Sometimes if it works, they keep it. If it doesn't work, they might do it anyway. You know, it's like they might keep it or might not. But by the time it airs, like, you know, 8-9 months later, I've forgotten all about that. But it's part of the feeling any artist would get as part of an ensemble. You want to contribute somehow,
Right.
as if the voices that we do aren't enough, but you want to be able to contribute artistically to that particular script. And sometimes I'm inspired by it, and sometimes I'm not. And I just do what they say. And geez, if you're getting 4 or 5 laughs a page, what do you need to do? It's like these guys are damn good at what they're doing.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And I've always been curious though, because when you guys are doing the table read, which is different than recording it on the booth, that is kind of the first time everyone's hearing your take or Dan's take or Julie's take, et cetera, and so forth, of what that line should be. I've always been so impressed by how you guys play off of each other and can kind of just, I mean, I'm like, this sounded perfect. I mean, what do I know? I'm not the writer who wrote the episode. I didn't hear the episode in my head beforehand, but it's incredible because it sounds like sometimes there's a lot of improv in the table read, which then I wonder how much of that gets used in the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
There may be a little bit of improv, but I think the table read, between the table read and the record, the table read is the more important of the two because it is the first time that the writers are hearing what they have painstakingly been working on for weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
And they're hearing it. And, you know, it's interesting. We did this interview with John Vitti, and I'm sure other writers had the same thought. Can the actors deliver? Are they, and this was early on, are they able to deliver what it is I am trying to put emotionally in this script?
Yeah.
And I was so touched when he said, oh my gosh, you guys just, you deliver so well. And it was, we don't really, our relationship is very perfunctory. It's like we come together for the table read. They sit at one end of a long table. We're at the other end because we're set up with microphones so that, and we're being recorded.
Yeah.
So we're sitting together, and if Yardley and I, or if Bart and Lisa are having a conversation, I want to be able to look at her, or if we have to say something simultaneously,
Right.
we have to time that out. So we sit close together. But that really helps the writers to hear me doing my voices and hearing the other actors do their voices. I think the writers and the executives have been really, really good at maintaining the integrity that they had from the very, very beginning. You go back to when we first started airing, which was December of '89, it's like there was no competition for a long time. There was nobody else doing primetime animation. And they established this family with Lisa becoming kind of the moral compass of the family. She was the good, and Bart was, you know, the contrast to that.
Right.
And I think they have done a remarkable job all these years later. You know, if we started way up here, but you're comparing it to culture at the time, and there were pockets of the United States, because it was just domestic at the time, that they didn't like the fact that a 10-year-old boy was saying, "Eat my shorts." Whatever that means. You know what I mean? I mean, you know what it means, but it's like, or "get bent," or "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" They no, that's 10-year-old boys don't do that, and my kids are not going to watch this show. Despite that, it's like, I think it actually encouraged people to watch the show, just kind
course.
of like sneaking peeks at it.
Yeah.
And if they even gave it a chance, they realize that, this is an amazingly well-written show.
Right.
And I think that the integrity of the show, the culture kind of has dropped a little bit, and The Simpsons likewise has followed the grain a little bit of the culture, but when you compare it to all these other shows that are out there, people ask, what keeps The Simpsons? Why is it so successful? I think that's one of the main reasons that we've kept that integrity all these years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Nancy, this was so fun. We got to talk about so many interesting questions that came from the fans.
I know, but it's like there's thousands of questions, and we, 20 or 30?
Yeah, we have barely scratched the surface,
Yeah.
is really what it is. But we're going to keep doing these. We're going to keep getting and diving into more conspiracy theories and weird stories and incredible declassified information from you and about the show. So we want to keep that coming.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for more and more.
For the fans.
Yes, ma'am.
Show's over, losers.